Let's go. Let's go. Um, it would be such a beautiful thing for prayer to cover our city, not only from Lawrenceville, but in several different counties in metro Atlanta. And so I'm looking forward to doing that, and that's exciting. I'm Ash. I'm our generations pastor here at Gate City Church. And I like to kind of share with you guys a little bit about life every once in a while when I come up. So I am a husband going on 14 years, and I am have children, teenage age. So my kids are 15, 13, 12, 5, and 3. So I'm really dizzy in life, going back and forth between teens and young ones. And, just being in the teen years of marriage and also in the teen years of parenting, there's a lot of growth, I say, and there's a lot of messiness and popping pimples as well, too. So it is a beautiful season of life for me. Things that I really enjoy doing. I enjoy music. I love music. Music is something that I've enjoyed from a young age. I listen to a lot of Christian hip hop. One of my favorite Christian hip hop artists right now is Tori Deshawn. If you haven't heard of him, he is an amazing artist. He has this new song called Same Old. Look that up. He says he goes to work and goes to church in the same clothes. So, all right, y'all are not following. All right. So another thing that I just watched recently was Andor. I'm not a Star Wars geek or anything like that, but I do enjoy that series. It's a pretty phenomenal series. Anybody seen it in here? Andor. Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, so I think some of y'all lying. Yeah, I know y'all watch a little bit more TV than that. All right. And then what I'm happy to do in this next season is step into being able to shepherd, pastor, disciple some of our teenagers. And so I'm going to be directly leading and pastoring our teenagers ages 13 to 18 in this next season. And we're going to start having a service for them specifically on Sunday mornings. And so we're going to be meeting in something we're calling the City Heights, which is going to be upstairs in the children's space. Upstairs, we're calling it City Heights, and we're going to do that right after worship on Sunday morning. So if you have anybody that you know, ages 13 to 18, that you want to invite and bring in on Sunday mornings, we're going to do worship all here together. And then at the end of worship, we're going to be released to go and have a special dedicated teaching and time of fellowship and connection for teenagers on Sunday mornings. I am super excited about that. What I love what I love about teenagers is that they're not, they love to be able to think and engineer their faith at a young age. And to be able to have the opportunity to give them everything that I got at their age, and then also everything that I didn't get, oh man. So if you are parents in here of children ages 13 to 18, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to shepherd your kids. And I'm just going to say I'm sorry ahead of time. Because what I'm hoping is that there's going to be a certain sense of fire, holy fire that's going to erupt in your homes. And if it gets a little hot for you, I'm sorry, but it's going to be coming from the heat of the love of God. Okay? So I want to invite you guys to just bring your children out to that June 8th. And we're going to have a dismissal for them and a releasing of them in that service. So we are in part 5 of our Beholding series. And beholding is all about looking at Jesus. There's nothing greater that we can do in our lives except look at him. There's been nothing greater in my life that's added more flourishing, more value to my life than looking at the person of Christ. Because every time I look at him, I find out something new about him, and I find something new about myself. And one of the things that I continue to find out time and time again is the expansive wisdom and love of Christ. And because I know more about his love, and then the more that I see him and the difference between he and I realize that his love is so unconditional for me. So It doesn't matter how many times I fall short. Doesn't matter how many times I mess up. Matter how well prepared I am to communicate a message. Doesn't matter how well I do at loving my wife. His love is unconditional in those terms. But what it enables me to do is to do those things with a lot of effort. So I'll prepare for a message with a lot of effort because of how much he loves me. I'll prepare to love my wife well because of how much he loves me. I'll prepare more to love my children well because of how much he loves me. So now I am not doing my relationship with God to earn anything. I'm doing it because I'm already something to him. So that is my hope as we go through this series, as you begin to behold who Jesus is more, it actually gives grace to your relationship with him. How many of you guys are sick and tired of a weighty Christianity? That's like a load on your back to have to do more moral duties in order to earn God's sight on your life. My hope in this message is that some of that would be removed. And that you can just step into the beauty and the majesty of who he is, and that let that transform you. I'm tired of trying to change myself. I get tired of it. It gets old really quick. Because I don't have a lot of natural endurance to change myself. Because I got to do better the next day than I did the day before. And then you stack that on another week, and you stack that on another month, and you stack that on another year. And it just becomes this rat race of spirituality. Instead of moving for what Paul invites us into is from glory to glory. And one of the most glorious things about Jesus is his love. I want to move from one level of love to another level of love. That's what this whole series is about. So, as we talk about today, the topic of beholding his wisdom, I want you to know that we're talking about his wisdom to love him more. So, what I want to do first is kind of give you an explanation of what wisdom is before we go into beholding Jesus in his wisdom. So, wisdom is just the right application of knowledge. Doing the right choices with the right motives. And that is divine wisdom, which is in opposition to earthly wisdom. Because earthly wisdom does not really care about doing the right things the right way. So heavenly wisdom has two components to it that come out of it. It is righteous and it is just. And many times, earthly wisdom lacks one of those two components. Okay? And so when you have a sense of justice without righteousness, then you end up with a faulty form of wisdom. An earthly form of wisdom because it's limited. And many times that ends up in vengeance. And vengeance is God's alone. Because he's the only one with enough wisdom to rightly give out vengeance justly and righteously. Okay? And then many times you have an earthly form of wisdom and it has no righteousness to it. And when it has no justice to it, then it becomes manipulation. So James talks about these two different ways of comparing the attributes of wisdom. So go ahead and go there in your Bibles. We're going to go James chapter 3. These aren't in the notes, but I feel like that would be a good place to show the difference between what is godly, divine wisdom and what is earthly wisdom. We're going to go to verse 13. Because one of the things that we're all tired of is an overload of information that doesn't have godly wisdom in it. We're inundated so much with so many different facts and so many different perspectives and stories, but it does not end up having righteousness and justice to it. So what that means is it diminishes human flourishing. Human flourishing is always at the heart of God's will and expressing his wisdom. James chapter 3, verses 13 through 18. Who is wise and understanding among you? Let him show by good conduct that his works are done in the meekness of wisdom. But if you have bitter envy and self-seeking in your hearts, do not boast and lie against the truth. This wisdom does not descend from above, but is earthly, sensual, and demonic. You know, many times we like to think that demons are just expressing themselves in spiritual beings. But demonic behavior is often embodied in us and how we think with selfish ambition. Because it's built on the basis of pride and trying to assert itself up against God in a peaceable way. So the next time that you're thinking about demons, think about your own selfish ambition. Verse 16, for where envy and self-seeking exist, there is confusion, and every evil thing are there. But this wisdom that is from above, divine and heavenly wisdom, is first pure, it's untainted, it's peaceable, it's gentle, it's willing to yield, it's full of mercy and good fruits, and it's without partiality and without hypocrisy. So you have the comparison there between the behavior and the activity of God's wisdom and the behavior and the activity of worldly wisdom. And so many times in my life, I end up doing things, the right thing the wrong way or the wrong thing the right way. And so sometimes it's down to my spiritual disciplines and my Christian behavior. I do the right thing. I wake up, I read my Bible, I spend my quiet time with God, but I'm doing it to check a box for my religious piety instead of encountering God. So I'm doing the right thing, but I do it the wrong way. And many times, I'll also do the wrong thing the right way. And for me in my life, that's come up in sometimes in the biggest decisions of my life where I've done the wrong thing the right way. And so I can remember this was a couple of decades ago, thankfully. I was such a fool, y'all, in my 20s. This story is going to let you know how much of an idiot I really was. So I was pursuing a relationship with someone and was living a very immoral and unfaithful life, but pursuing God the best way I knew how. So as you hear this story, I want you to know, like, God is not more concerned with your level of executing morality than he is with you being on his side. During this season, I was pursuing more and more to be underneath God's covering and his light while still making stumbling choices while he was holding my hand, like Psalms 37 says. So I end up, during this season, pursuing a relationship, and in the midst of that relationship, it doesn't actually turn out to meet my emotional needs the way that I want it to. Now, this is during my season where I'm turning back to God. I'm praying, I'm fasting, I'm doing all of the outward disciplines with the inward heart of turning to God completely. And so at that time, though, I had not yielded my body to God in my morality and my sexual activity. And so I ended up having an unfaithful night with my with an ex-girlfriend at the time. That ex-girlfriend today is now my wife. And then she ends up getting pregnant with our first child. And so from that place of still wanting to pursue Christ, I choose to tell her, hey, this is how much of a fool I was. I'm not going to marry you, but I'm going to fully take care of our child. I'm actually going to continue to pursue that other relationship. So I go and I tell the young lady's parents that I was dating. I say, hey, I have made this mistake, but I would still love to pursue your daughter. Some of y'all like cringing, like, this dude is bold. I was a bold fool. And so I did that, and then I continued to take care of the responsibilities of my baby mama that was pregnant. Just saying in simple terms. I was doing the wrong thing the right way. How many of y'all got some stories where you have done the wrong thing the right way or the right thing the wrong way? We're in good company here together. Thank you that we have an example in our Lord Jesus who shows us how to make every decision the right way from the right motives. Okay? So, in this culture, we need a level of consistent leadership that shows us that example. And we need it for someone who has done it completely throughout their entire life. Because there have been people in history who have reached a level of wisdom that was uncanny. Most notably Solomon. And he started out on a great path in his relationship with God. And God gave him more wisdom than any other man who had ever lived up until that time. His wisdom was breathtaking, as 1 Kings would tell you. The Queen of Sheba met him, and it says her spirit came out of her. This man's wisdom became renowned to all of the world around him. And it said, Kings will tell us in chapter 2 and then also in chapter 10 that Solomon's wisdom was given for the purpose to allow for righteousness and justice to go forth for the people of God. What became the issue for Solomon was that he began to use that wisdom for his own self rather than other people's good. So by the end of his life, he's now given himself over to these idolatrous relationships that God told him not to. And then he's in this place of just kind of this losslessness that you experience in Ecclesiastes. There's a way that he has lost his way many times in his life, knowing left from right. Thank God that we have a better example than Solomon. Someone who was consistent. And Jesus proclaimed this. Solomon's wisdom was well known throughout the rest of the annals of the history of Israel up until Jesus' day. And in Jesus' day, he tells the followers, hey, you guys saw Solomon's wisdom and you uplifted, but there is someone yet greater than he is here right now, pointing to the premier fact, I have greater wisdom available in me now because I am the embodiment of wisdom itself. So thank God that he shows us how humans can be tainted in their view of wisdom, even though they can attain to a high level of it. But it's only God in the flesh himself who gives us the perfect picture of what that looks like. So I want to pull this passage out a little bit more to show us how the church began to think about the wisdom that Christ bestowed on us. Colossians 2, verses 1 through 4. These are in the notes. This is Paul's heart for the church in Colossae. The church in Colossae had a lot of different ideologies coming at them, a lot of different forms of thinking and wisdom that were earthly. And then Paul is speaking directly to what they need and what he desires for them. See, and I want you to listen to the emotions in his words as he says this. He says to the church in Colossae, chapter 2, verse 1. I want you to know how hard I am contending for you and for those at Laodicea, and for all who have come, who have not yet met me personally. Like, my ministry is all about this thing that I'm about to tell you, because I'm contending hard for this. My goal is that they may be encouraged in heart and united in love. I love that all of Paul's theology, all those things came down to very simple things. Living a life with a fullness and wholeness of heart, bound in love. So that they may have the full riches of complete understanding, in order that they may know the mystery of God, namely Christ, in whom are hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. I tell you this so that no one may deceive you by fine-sounding arguments. Everything that's good to know about any form of wisdom or knowledge are in Jesus. There are a lot of trash wisdom and trash knowledge. None of those things are in the life of Jesus. But everything that is to be treasured about wisdom and about knowledge is wrapped up in the Messiah. This is what beholding Christ is like. This is what Paul contended hard for people to be able to say, hey, there's so much value and power in knowing who Christ is. The reason why is namely because Christ is the creator. He is the author and the giver of life. He is the reason why you blink. He's the reason why you can move your toes and shake your head. He's the reason why you can feel goosebumps in a cringy moment or at a good moment. He's the reason why when you see the sunrise, your heart starts to open up. Or on a rainy day, you just want to get under a blanket. Everything that makes up the fabric of who you are found in Christ. Everything to be treasured about wisdom and knowledge we have. Oh my goodness. All creative power are found in Christ. Proverbs chapter 3 tells us, there is nothing more valuable than wisdom. Not riches, not any treasures. Wisdom is to be valued up above all those things. All right. How many times when you think of wisdom does your heart just drop? How many times when you're driving down 85 and you think about winning that lotto, does your heart just drop? You start to think about, man, if I just give me 10% of what that's at right now. And then you become fascinated, you go into wonder, and you think about all the different things, and you're probably thinking about it like a good Christian. I'd tithe 10% of it. Do you value wisdom that much? Said another way, do you value Jesus that much? Because the same way that you begin to dream about all these different things that you would do with that money or achievement or whatever else that thing is in your heart, do you dream about how you get to have a relationship with Jesus that same way? This is what compelled Paul to get the lashes 39 times. Was it 4 or 5 times? Y'all don't know your Bible? Get stoned to death, shipwrecked overnight. It's because he saw this facet of Jesus that was so wonderful. And he's like, I got to tell everybody about it. Because it's only going to make their lives better if they see him this way. I want to talk about 2 different examples where Jesus did this masterfully. You know, the first one I want to start with is in John 4. John wrote his gospel near the end of the first century. And towards the end of the first century, you have this wave of Gnosticism, this wave of knowledge that the Greeks were deeply involved in and started to kind of taint the church. And if you look up the word like know and knowing, you'll see that word is found more times in the book of John than it is in any of the other gospels. Because John is pointing out what Jesus does as knowledge and how he chooses to use knowledge the right way. And how in opposition that is into the culture that was emerging around him that was allowing the church to be deceived. Time and time again, you'll see Jesus knew their thoughts, or Jesus knew he was going back to the Father. Time and time again, you'll see that through the book of John. But specifically in John 4, it's the beautiful moment that all of us know, or many of us know, about Jesus interacting with the woman at the well. Now, what's wonderful about the knowledge that Jesus had, he knew about all the sin in her life. She was a woman that had been married several times. And she was currently with someone that she was not married to. This is the type of person that you and I many times will hear their story and then we'll just kind of cringe up and cling up. Jesus knows where she's going to be that day. He knows her routine, and he chooses to sit at the well to meet her. And they began to have this conversation. And Jesus, knowing all the intimate details of scandalousness in her life, he uses it with righteousness and justice. He uses it wisely. He uses it in a way not to be dismissive to her, to go fix herself, but to draw her to himself. And by the end of their conversation, she's not trying to hide her story. She's communicating it to everybody. Come see the man who knew everything about me and still cared to have a conversation with me. This is what Jesus does with his knowledge. This is what he does with his wisdom. And I fall so short of this so many different times. I know things, man, there are times I know my kid's lying to me. You just smell it. The other day, man, I called one of my kids. I was like, you just look goofy right now. What are you doing? Nothing. I'm reading my Bible. His Bible was sitting right there. No, I mean, their Bible was sitting right there. Their Bible was sitting right there. I was like, nah, that's too quick. What are you doing? I was on my phone. Actually, what happened is I said, hey, give me your phone. And then he was like, I was playing a game. So minor. But what I did with that information, in that moment, I gave him the dad death stare. Instead of drawing him like, hey man, do you know the person that's behind these pages that you're reading? Do you know that you can be more captivated and fascinated by what you'll encounter in these pages than what's on that phone? Man, my use of wisdom is so limited. And the way that Jesus uses his wisdom and his knowledge of the woman at the well is the way that he uses his wisdom and his knowledge of us and the scandalous things in our own life. He uses it to draw us to himself, to give us satisfaction that's deeper and more compelling than anything that we have caught ourselves into. So because of that, there's a term that I think that's valuable for us to be able to enter into with Jesus. Is we get to call him Lord. We get to individually follow him together. Because he knows the right choices to make with the right motives for our lives. And even beyond that, Jesus uses his wisdom to allow people to move together in unity together without chaos. And because of that, he's worthy to be called king. In Luke 13, I won't go into it deeply, but in Luke 13, there's this moment of crisis that's happening to the children of Israel. They're up on one of their festivals, and there's this sacrifice that's being prepared for this feast and this festival, and it's a holy moment. It's a sacred moment. It's a celebration. Think of it something like 4th of July. And imagine on 4th of July, someone starting to burn flags. Imagine what someone's response would be who was a leader in government about that moment on the 4th of July. This is the type of moment that's happening at the beginning of Luke 13. The Roman soldiers end up killing some Israelites that are on their way to go do this sacrifice. And the blood of the people actually gets on the sacrifice itself. And Jesus is in the middle of this message, and they run to him with this crisis moment. And they're like, hey, Jesus, do you know what just happened? Wanting Jesus to turn the people up who are already on the edge of a revolt. They're wanting to bring Jesus on their side. Jesus wisely and with righteousness and justice and says, hey, the thing that actually we should all be most concerned about is what happened to those people's souls. Jesus is worthy to be king because he knows not how to get caught in the weeds. He knows how to prioritize what's most important in the moment of crisis and chaos. Because if he builds himself and he gets on their side, you have an unlimited amount of people slaughtered. And so what Jesus does is draws through righteousness and justice, what's most important in this moment. It's not about vengeance. It's about eternity. So he actually has more concern for people's lives than just getting caught up in the chaos of the moment. That's why he's worthy to be called king. So the more that we behold Jesus, we look through the Gospels, We look at the moments that Jesus handled every decision with righteousness and justice, we become more like him, and that leads to flourishing for one another. It brings God the most amount of pleasure, and it always ends in the best outcomes for one another. I want to end with this. If you're like, man, I just don't have the wisdom or the knowledge or the understanding to be able to execute in the way that allows for my family to flourish, my life to flourish, and other people to flourish, because I'm like you, Ash, I've done a lot of wrong things the right way or right things the wrong way. This wisdom that came from Jesus came from a core virtue and value in his heart. It came from the fear of the Lord. Yes, Jesus himself was in awe and respect and reverence of his Father. Proverbs will tell you the beginning of wisdom is the fear of the Lord. The prophets spoke about the one that was going to come, that was the Messiah. The fear of the Lord was going to rest on him. I want to invite the worship team to come up, because I want to invite us to step into a moment where we can deepen in our fear of the Lord. And what I mean by the fear of the Lord is I mean a deep respect and awe and reverence of who he is and his creative power, and a deep amount of admiration and wonder and captivation by how valuable he is above anything else in our lives. And the things that bound those things together are his justice and his love. We can never talk too far or much about the intensity of the wrath of God, because it always uplifts the love of God, because he hates evil. Right? The beginning, to fear the Lord is to hate evil, is what Proverbs will tell us. This is who Jesus was. He embodied the wisdom of the Old Testament literature and lived it out perfectly among the people of Israel. But he did that because he had a burning heart for staying in conversation with his Father. That's what the fear of the Lord is. Like, God, who are you? What are you doing? I can stay in connection and conversation. He always had an open heart and an open ear to what his Father was doing and saying. There was a fear of the Lord that rested on him like no other person. That's what enabled his wisdom. That's what enabled his righteousness. That's what enabled his justice, was a right view of the fear of the Lord in his heart. And it became something that was not burdensome for him. He loved to do the will of the Father because of this. There are times that I'm like, see my 5-year-old and my 3-year-old, I just see them giggle and laugh first thing in the morning. One of the most annoying things about them is that they come into our bed every night. One at 12 o'clock, the other one at 3 o'clock. It's going to happen every night. Feet in my face, taking the covers off of me. It is the worst. But those mornings, when I hear them giggle and laugh, it does something unimaginable to my heart. And I sit for a second, and I'm like, God, you made that. You're worth me serving as Lord. You're worth me following as King. Because you make the tiniest moments the most amazing. That's what the fear of the Lord is. I've used this illustration before. You know, my wife and I, we took a trip from out to Phoenix, and we went to go to that area to go visit the Grand Canyon. And we only had a few days. My wife was pretty sick at the time, and so we went to this place called Horseshoe Bend first. And if you've been to Horseshoe Bend, it's this amazing view. It's X amount of feet up, and there's this amazing little river that goes around. I'm calling it river, a little one, but it's really huge. And it's just this kind of magazine photo experience, and it's beautiful. And I'm like, yo, Mega, I think we saw what we needed to see out here. This was amazing enough. I don't want to put you through anything else and us having to travel. We ended up going through like the Antelope Canyons and different things like that. There are these underground canyons that are really amazing, and these grooves that are built through water erosion. And it's just really nice, and it's dope. So I'm like, baby, I think the trip was worth it. Let's just go home. And she's like, nah, I think I want to go. I think we came out here. We came to go to the Grand Canyon. Let's go. So I'm like, all right, cool. So we started driving, and as we're driving, we started to come up on like the West Rim, and I started to see how like basically the ground caves underneath you, it feels like. And then we drive a little bit further, and I see this amazing view of something that I had no conception of in my thoughts, and my stomach just drops. It takes my breath away. And in that moment, I'm like, that's what the fear of the Lord is. Something that's so captivating in God that it takes your breath away. I want to invite you to stand.